Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters Show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, paranormal, and spiritual topics. So sorry we couldn't come to you live today. We're having serious technical issues, so at least you can watch it later here.
Yay!
Yeah.
And the Sedona Soul Sisters are myself, Rosalind Reynolds, my business partner, Ivory Lanou, and our sweet maid, Terri-Ann Russell. And we have offices in Sedona, right in the beautiful West Sedona part. I love the energy over here. So if you get into the area and would like to come by and see us, please do.
And our topic today is signs from spirit. So I know that we're not live, but you can still comment and we will get back to you when we get on.
Absolutely. And speaking of signs from spirit, we were sitting here discussing as Ed, our very patient engineer, is trying to get the show to go on live, and it's not working. We're like, is it Mercury in retrograde? Is it signs from spirit? You know how they love to interfere with electronic equipment. That's one of the number one things that they do.
They have a lot of fun with that.
Oh, yeah.
I find that one of the things that I hear most from people who come in who are starting to do a little bit of awakening is, I've got all this weird electronic stuff going on around me. I'm going, I get it. Quite interesting.
Yes. This isn't the first time. I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is spirit interference here, but when I used to do paranormal investigations, I've told Roz about this. We were doing an investigation in Prescott at the Hotel Vendome in the most haunted room. And it was raining outside, and it was kind of stormy. It was like, ooh, perfect if you like it, a little scary. So the guy who's there doing the videotape for us, he's filming, and it would stop, and the battery would go dead. And then he'd start filming again, and then it would stop, and the battery would be drained dead, like every 5 minutes. And he finally just got what he got and gave up. Then in the middle of the night, it turned it on at some point. So we had 6.5 hours of us talking about what we're going to do today and what we got in evidence and eating breakfast and driving home. So they can really operate things that even didn't exist when they were alive, because that spirit died in the 1800s, right around the turn of the century. And certainly we didn't have
technology,
digital recorders and video cameras, so I don't know.
I find that they are really, really good with electrical lighting. I've had clients who had their televisions, radios, etc. going off and on. They figure that stuff out pretty quickly. But the most interesting things recently that I've encountered with people are the little games that they like to play on the smartphones.
They do love them.
They do. Just all kinds of stuff, like flipping through different apps, flipping through. I have one client who is just fascinated by the fact that certain texts appear out of nowhere. And so she went to the Verizon store and she said, okay, now can this be happening? The guy, of course, looked at her like she just beamed down. And he's like going, no.
She might as well have worn a Martian suit and marched in there, right?
It's very interesting, how those little signs that they want to let us know, hey, we're here. We're here, pay attention.
Each spirit does some specific things too, and if they start with some little things and that doesn't catch your attention, they bump it up.
Right.
So I don't know who the spirit is. I suspect it's you, Frank. My friend I did shows with, sang with. Well, he really likes music, and what he'll do is turn my phone on, and it has a 6-digit passcode. So he enters the passcode, goes into iHeartRadio, and puts on a song that he likes, or puts on my favorite podcast show I listen to in the morning. And I'm in the other side of the house, and I suddenly hear music or talking, and I go in, I'm like, okay.
Right.
Nobody else uses that phone. Nobody else knows that code. So they're very clever.
Yeah.
And it's easy when it's things like that. You think, oh, weird, something's going on with my phone, if you're not in tune to that.
Right. And I find too, every spirit has like their own little personality, right?
Oh,
Some
yeah.
of them are
yeah.
mischievous than others.
Little pranksters.
Yes, so it's funny because like I know like my grandfather, he'll come in and mess with the lights, or he'll turn things. Like he freaked me out in the beginning when he first passed away. I just said, give me a sign that you're okay. And we had a Christmas Mickey Mouse in the house, and it wasn't even plugged in, and the thing started moving. It freaked me out. And then it moving faster, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I get it. So it's like, he's a jokester.
I was doing a mediumship session up in Flagstaff for a whole family, extended family. It's my brother's wife and all her family, and I've known them for decades. And my sister-in-law's sister passed away really rapidly. So they asked if I'd come up there and do a group mediumship reading. Yes. All of them were pretty conservative people. They're all Catholics. They wanted it so bad to be true, and she came through like a champ. So then they're all like telling everybody they know, but the important thing was the mother went home and she keeps telling me, you're not going to believe what happened now. She's contacting me again. And she lives in Yuma, and the first thing was that she had a lamp, and she said, all right, Lori, if you're here, I need you to make that lamp move. And it turned like a little bit, and she got chills all over. I'm getting chills talking about it. And she said, all right, well, that might be a coincidence. Lori, if it's you, make it turn the other way. And it went, and then it started turning. It doesn't turn. You know, that just has never happened. There's no breeze. She said, I am a believer. I am a believer. And since then, I ask her to do something, and she does it. And I'm like, well, there you go.
Wow.
You just never know.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you out there who experience anything like this, always just kind of get yourself grounded and remind yourself that even though you don't find a lot of people that talk about these things, it's quite interesting because over the years I have had many, many people come in, especially right after the passing of a loved one, where they have had significant indications that they were being visited. And it's comforting. I mean, it's a wonderful thing if you can kind of like not freak out.
I think it's interesting because clients start the same as you. Clients would come in and they're talking about, this has happened. Do you think that could be because such and such passed away? And I said, well, absolutely. And here's some things you can do, kind of like what the extended family was doing to try to make sure if that's you, blah, 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 do this, you know. Well, what happened was I started asking at mediumship sessions, I'd say, do you want to know what your loved one's doing to get your attention? Most people are like, yes, but occasionally they're like, you can see the wheels are turning, they're like, yeah. But I think it's good. I like to include that because it's physical things they're going to be able to watch for once they go home. And it's not just a reading, but things for them to look for. So like they love, Roz mentioned lamps, lights, spirit. I've seen it. Clients have seen it. Lights turn on or off. Appliances turn on or off by themselves. Flickering bizarrely. Televisions.
Oh my
you know
gosh,
what? Okay, there's a spirit who on my smart TV, if I'm watching something streaming, it thinks it's really funny to, like, let's say I watched season 1, episode 2, so the next one should be season 1, episode 3. I turn on my TV and it's jumped ahead six episodes. And I contacted Netflix and Amazon Prime. They're like, that can't happen. How many times have I heard that? Oh, that can't happen.
That can't happen.
Like, well.
Surprise, surprise, it can.
And for people, too, that are a little more fearful, like I always say, look for signs. Like my grandmother loved pennies. She'd pick pennies up wherever she went, and she'd always say, pick up that penny. So wherever my grandmother usually is, we find pennies like crazy. So that's just something little that you can do, ask for and do, that if you're a little bit fearful of the other stuff, that just finding, pennies laying around.
Or if things are happening that are scaring you, consider saying, hey, Grandma, that really freaks me out. Instead, will you leave coins for me? Will you leave pennies for me in interesting places, or feathers in odd places? Pick something specific. You can take some control of that because they're not trying to scare you usually. I don't know. There's some. Occasionally, I think they're pretty mischievous.
The pranksters. I think it's always good for us to remind ourselves too. These are people, in the case of family members who have passed, these are people that we knew really well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good to be specific, like you're indicating, and just say, hey, remember this situation? Show me something from that. And I've had a couple people that I said that to, and they had amazing results.
Yeah, just it's not just
A
psychics or
picture
mediums who can do
suddenly
that.
appearing out of nowhere. They indicate that. They go into another room or they leave the house, they come back, and the picture is sitting there. And that happened a couple times. So it's good to open your mind to all the possibilities, because we're not stuck here. This is a dimensional field, but we're not trapped here. Neither are they in their dimensional field.
No, and we can interact so much more than most people realize. And it makes it so that, yeah, you're sad when somebody you love and care about passes, but not to the depths of despair like you might be if you didn't understand that they're still with you. They can still communicate. They can leave you messages. They can talk to you. There's so many things they can do, and they do talk to you. I have some amazing, I should have brought those in, amazing EVPs, and the best one was like in a house I was living in, which did not please me, I might add to you, just so you know, that there were boot steps, and then it said, don't do that. And then it said, now that's the way it's supposed to be. And I was pouring some coffee for my guest. And later I heard that voice again, like recorded in the bedroom. We were doing another investigation. We did figure out who that was, and that was a spirit that followed me around for a long time. So it did that, and then it also did something like we were going to go on an investigation in Crown King, and our digital recorder was nowhere to be found, and we were kind of very set of where we would keep this equipment. Couldn't find it anywhere, and I finally said, look, we have to leave in 5 minutes. We've got people waiting. You need to return that. And my boyfriend at the time goes to put his boot on, and it's in the toe of his boot he hasn't worn in 2 years. And we just used that recorder within 2 weeks.
Wow.
So that's prankster kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
The jokes.
Yeah. I find kids too. So like my oldest son, he was little, I think, when our dog had passed. So like 3 or 4. He was real little. But he would tell me, Fluffy comes to visit me on the bed, Mommy. I see her sitting on the edge of the bed. And at the time I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But their kids are so open. So if you're around kids or you have kids, really pay attention to who they're talking to sometimes.
Who's their imaginary friends?
Yes, and what they say, because they have the ability. They're so open and they can see and hear and feel.
If they say, I see Grandma, they see Grandma.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point about pets, though. I mean, you all know I'm highly allergic to anything with feathers and fur, so I don't have pets, darn it. But pets come to me. They know I love them, and almost every night, last night it felt like a cat jumped up on the bed, a large one, like a poof, and then I could feel just the way they walk, kind of dainty. It's the movement of the feet, and then it settled down, and I'm going to sleep now. Sometimes it's a dog. So yeah, that's those are things dog and cat spirits can do.
Yes.
They love you. They still want to be with you, just like a deceased person does.
Very true. I have a really good friend who just passed away within the last week, and she loved animals, amazing animal communicator. She adopted and homed and rehomed so many animals, mainly dogs. And I knew immediately when I heard that she had crossed over that she was reconnecting with some of the many, many pets that she had saved. I just could see it and I could feel it. And I think when they're coming through to us, like I've had a lot of pets too, and when they're coming through to us, and we're in a situation where, like, I hear them. I had 2 cats that had very distinctive meow. And I've heard them before. And I actually had a client in my office one day, and we were sitting there and suddenly she said, I feel a cat winding around my legs. I feel there's a cat in here. And she's looking everywhere. I said, well,
Yes.
he's visiting from spirit,
Oh.
just hanging out with us.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Animals have the ability to see also. My
Oh,
dog,
yes.
once in a while, he'll sit there and my grandfather's picture is hung in our house. I always wanted that picture from the time I was little. He looks like JCPenney. So
Cool.
he comes to visit, and my dog will sit there and look at the wall, and he's like, "Brrr." I'm like, leave Grandpa alone.
He's just dropping in for some family time.
Right? And like, it's just Grandpa, and he's like, "Brrr."
Something else, like along with these things that physically happen, sometimes it's a feeling. And as Roz was talking a moment ago about your friend that crossed recently, I felt a spirit come in, and I got chills head to toe. I felt it come in right here, and chills head to toe, and that's how I feel spirit is just really hard chills. And the more the energy that they have. And I just feel like your friend was a really powerful person, like a really powerful energy.
I still feel her, I still feel her amazing, loving heart. I mean, she just would go out of her way to help, to do. And of all the people I've known that worked with, animals that that had been abandoned or needed to be rehomed, or she was just amazing. I mean, she took in all kinds of animals, and I just had this vision. I still see her, when they were all alive, and she would be out there with them, and they would just all come and sit and look at her adoringly. And I know that's what they're doing now, too. They're all just coming where
she's
she
got a whole
is.
menagerie on the other side, doesn't she?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's true.
So you might feel cold breezes. That's another physical thing, is sometimes there's no fan on, no windows open, no one's moving around, but you suddenly feel like a little breeze
Or
move
you just
across.
walk into a cold spot.
Like yesterday, here in the lobby, just to my left. I walked in, I went, why is my left leg and hip is freezing? I'm like, let's do a little experimenting here. So when you walk into their space, you're going to get cold. Or if they walk into yours.
Yes.
One thing that I think would be good to mention too is a lot of times people actually hear their loved ones speaking to them, but they're kind of in that state between sleep and awake. And I can't think of the brainwave that is. Is it theta?
Yeah, theta.
So I very commonly have people tell me, I heard, I woke up and I heard my mother, or I heard whoever this was. Our hearing is not really limited to this frequency. So we are able to hear them. And I think realizing that these are our loving spirits that are coming in close to us just to let us know, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm still around you. It's very comforting.
That's a good point. And smell too. Your smell
Oh
is heightened.
gosh, yes.
My grandmother wore this like rosy perfume, and you can't forget it. But when she comes in, you start. I'm like, where is that smell coming from? Like, it just takes you right back to when you were little and your grandma was wearing that smell in her house, or smoke. Like all my grandparents smoked.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
My
oh
granddad
my
smelled
God,
cigar
that's horrible smoke. Yeah, you can smell it, right?
Yeah, a very distinct brand.
Yes.
So yeah.
So they may present like that.
Or sometimes it's food. If they really liked a certain food,
Or they like to cook a certain food.
Or they like to cook a certain food. Absolutely.
I've had people where I was in a session and I would say, it smells like fried chicken or something in here. And they go, oh, that's what she likes to make.
Or gingerbread. I remember gave it gingerbread. They're like, oh, that was a specialty of theirs. I'm like, okay, it smells really good.
I think one thing with, especially spirits who are coming in, female loved ones, I get a very consistent thing with the perfume that you were mentioning, where the spirits will actually say, when I'm around her, she smells my perfume, or he can smell me. And I'm like, I'll say to them, do you ever feel like you're smelling that perfume? They go, yes. So you're not going crazy. I mean, we actually have these sensitivities that we utilize all the time. Our sixth sense is always on task.
And they want to connect with you. They really do.
They do.
They want to just...
They're kind of desperate sometimes to connect with us.
Yeah, I think so.
To just let us know they're okay. They're in a wonderful place. I know what's going on with you. I'm still with you. Absolutely. Trying to think of some other things because there's been so much.
I think the other thing too is, for those of you who sometimes experience seeing like a movement out of the corner of your eye or a shadow moving, quote unquote, just a definition or an outline or something, a lot of times we are actually seeing into that dimensional field and they're coming through. So I feel like so many people experience these things, but they don't give them credibility.
Yeah.
So think about when you start to have these events happening, the fact that we do have the capability to do this.
And I think we need to say too, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in spirit visitation. It doesn't matter if you don't believe in the other side. I've had clients come in who said they identify as atheists, and it kind of freaked them out that they were getting these spirit communications, but it doesn't matter. It's still happening. So whether you want to acknowledge it or recognize it or not, it's your choice.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, you know. So I think one other thing that it's good to bring up at this point is sometimes we have visitations from spirits that are not necessarily friendly. And especially when you're, if you're going into really, I notice it more like going into old buildings, going into areas where the dimensional fields kind of overlap. I've been seeing and hearing all kinds of interesting people hanging out with me since I was a kid. And I sort of developed just a curiosity about them as opposed to a fear. And I think if you can kind of stay a little objective, not go into a reactionary mode of intense fear or intense like just discomfort, like what is going on around me? I don't know what's happening. Just kind of put yourself in a neutral place, and always I ask to be protected, placed in a bubble of white light of love, healing, and calmness, so that I can remain in kind of a neutral state.
Yeah. So like in heavier places like Jerome, or where there's been a lot of pain or suffering.
Jerome is intense.
I was just thinking about Jerome.
Yeah. That's a very amazing place. The dimensional fields just overlapping there.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first times I ever went there, I actually couldn't tell the difference between some of the people on the street and some of the spirits that were cruising around. And even I was like, whoa, this is, I don't know about this,
There's just very, very high numbers of deaths there, and a lot of the people died in the mines and
And
accidents
the fires.
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was a lot of brutal life there too, just very hard living. So anytime you go into a location where there is pain and suffering, there's the intensity of that. And this is not to say that you're going to see terrifying, creepy looking, beings. I mean, you're just experiencing, sometimes seeing the life that they lived.
Or feeling it.
Yeah.
Feeling it. I had an experience. Tim and I were married in Vegas the night before the attacks happened down by Mandalay Bay.
Oh my goodness.
And so we were only married an hour or two. We went down. And this overwhelming feeling of sadness came over me. And I was just like so sullen, and I could feel all this pain and suffering. And he's like, we just got married. What are you so upset for? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just feeling this heaviness here and everything. It's just dragging me down. And the next day we happened to hear that that guy had shot up everybody at the thing, and we're getting texts, are you okay? Oh my God. But even beforehand, you can feel,
Yeah,
I was able to feel that heaviness.
that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're highly
be aware.
empathic, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I always used to tell my kids when they were, entering their teenage years, if you're somewhere and it doesn't feel good to you and you feel a compulsion to get out of there, always listen to that, because that can be the precursor, the precognition
Mm-hmm.
that you have of an upcoming event, or it can be your guardian angels and spirits saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
take off.
There's something here that you don't need to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So trust your intuition. Trust what you feel. A lot of people have talked about they had an impending sense like, I shouldn't go there. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't get on that plane. I shouldn't, whatever it
Shouldn't have
is.
dated that guy. I knew I shouldn't have dated that guy.
So listen to those things, okay? Because our sixth sense, our subconscious, this is a sense, like our other five senses, and it's tuned on, hey, being on task to help us.
And something I found out too that I didn't realize, I guess this is an ongoing learning experience, even if you are a psychic medium doing it professionally. You do not know everything. There's no way to know everything because new things happen. So somebody that I knew passed away, and he was immediately giving very clear signs, but it was very evident that he could be with his wife and one of his daughters at the exact same time. And I didn't know Spirit could do that at that time. I was like, and they're asking me like, but he was with me at that time. I'm like, well, you both had very clear signs, because he would leave little pyramids of his favorite cereal, which they didn't even have in their house. They hadn't had it in the house,
Wow.
and he never had it at his daughter's house. But there were pyramids of that sitting around in odd places in the pantry, in the kitchen, on the counter. And then they saw him. They saw him like in a spirit form, but it was definitely him at the exact same time. So that can happen too. And neither one of them are psychic mediums.
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Woohoo! How time flies when you can finally do your show. I'm glad we could put this up here so you can watch it later, and sorry again we couldn't do it live.
Pretty tough. And we'd like to just thank you for joining us today on the Soul Sisters show. If you have any questions about what we've talked about or what we do, how we might be able to help you, go to our website, SedonaSoulSisters.com.
And also, if you have suggestions for topics that you'd like us to cover, we are very open to that. Please send those along as well. Next week, our topic will be the spiritual cleansing process. That's pretty extensive. So we hope that you have an enlightening week.
And fun.
Yes.